Hi, and welcome to Cycling on a Shoestring, and something completely different for you today. I was out riding yesterday, did about a 105K ride with a friend of mine, and I was getting some creaking sounds out of my bike. And I've had this bike for a long time, and I know generally when I get creaking of this particular type, that I've got to pull my bottom bracket cartridge out, re-lube it, stick it back in, and it will get rid of the creaking. You know, it gets wet and it gets dry, and it gets wet and it gets dry. So I've done it. And I've had this bike for 10 years, probably at least once a year for 10 years. I'm very careful with it. I have the proper tools. I have a torque wrench. On this particular bike, when it comes to a bottom bracket cartridge, I've got the BBR 60 bottom bracket cartridge, which is basically the Ultegra cartridge for this particular bicycle. And you want to tighten it between 35 and 50 Newton meters, according to the Shimano website, Park Tool as well, for a Holotech 2 bottom bracket, BBR 60. So this morning I pulled the bottom bracket out, get it out, didn't come out too badly. It was in there a little tight, but generally that's what happens with bottom bracket cartridges. And greased it up, cleaned it, greased it up, and was putting it back in. I got the drive side in just fine. And then I put in the non-drive side, and I had a major issue. And I'll tell you, my stomach turned when this happened. I was almost sick, because about the worst thing you can do to a bike frame is to cross-thread the bottom bracket. You don't want to do that. Probably the second worst thing you can have happen is have the bottom bracket cartridge snap off, leaving the threads and everything inside the bottom bracket of the bike. So this is one half that snapped off. Now, again, I have a torque wrench that only goes to 29 Newton meters, and the specs on the torque for this particular bottom bracket cartridge is 35 to 50. My torque wrench didn't snap, so it didn't even make it to 29, and I know that it doesn't go to the minimum torque specifications for this bottom bracket cartridge. Again, my stomach turned. A real bad thing. I mean, I've been thinking about it for hours. So I looked online, and I saw a few places where people had similar situations. They suggested using a hacksaw to cut it out very carefully so you don't damage the threads inside the bike frame itself. And then I thought of a friend of mine who's been in the bike business, well, Cookie, my friend Cookie in Ontario, 50 years. Anyway, he can do anything with bikes. I'm going to call Cookie up, and I got in touch with him. He says, "Do you have a Dremel tool?" I said, "Yes, I have a Dremel tool." He says, "Well, that is what you need to use for this particular job, and you've got to be very, very careful." He said, "Cut a V in there, 2 different cuts, go very, very slowly." He said, "You could use a hacksaw blade, but it's very hard. This is really hard. Dremel tool will work better, but be very, very careful." So honestly, my stomach is turning for the second time today, because this is quite the procedure. But I have the proper tool. I'm going to be very, very careful with this, and I thought it might be interesting, because there's no videos online of anybody doing this, that I would do a videotape of this, and we'll see if it works out. He says, once you get the piece out, you'll be able to turn the rest of it to remove it, because it'll be a little springy. Right now, it's completely around in the bottom bracket. Once you get that piece out, you'll be able to, kind of compress it a bit, and you'll be able to take it out. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be very careful with it. It might take me 4 hours. I don't care. I'm going to go real slow with this and live and die by the sword. So that's my problem. And maybe if you're somebody who's gone through a similar situation, this can be helpful. Or maybe you take it into a shop and pay somebody to do it for you. But I think I'm capable. My friend Cookie said if you could bring it to Ontario, I'm in Alberta, I'd have it out in 5 minutes. He's done it so many times. But he says I can do it. So I trust him. He's my mentor when it comes to bike repairs. We'll see how this works. And let's get at it. Okay, so what I've done so far, we've got an angle in there like this. Now my friend suggested I cut like a V shape in there. So we'll get a piece here, cut across here, and I can still, there's about 1/8 of an inch left there. So hopefully I can grab a hold of that with a pair of pliers and it'll snap out once I cut through. Don't know that I've gone all the way through. I don't think I have. It's close, but I'm going to find out. I've gone kind of slowly here, so we'll see what happens. Scaring the shit out of me, to be honest with you. Here we go. I'm freewheeling it here with the camera, so hopefully you can see that all right. And you can see what I've done here with the bottom bracket cartridge. And I was sweating bullets doing this, honestly, using a Dremel tool on my bike. It scared the hell out of me. But what I did was I cut a little V, as you can see there, hopefully, a little V like this. And then I don't think I went all the way through. I just grabbed it with this and I snapped this piece out of there. So you can see that whole piece cut out. See the threads in below. Now at the back, I don't know that you can see that because I kind of made a cross in there. There was another tiny piece at the back that popped out as well. So I'm hoping there's enough of a gap there that I can get a hold of this and kind of crimp it a little bit. And so I can get enough torque on it and then turn it out of there. Because now that it's kind of broken in the middle, hopefully I can compress it a bit and then I can get it out because obviously it's been tightened in there and it's going to be hard to get out. I'll use a little lubrication in there. Hopefully that'll help get it moving. We'll give that a try now. But I'll tell you, this was tough to do. So what I'm going to try to do here is I got these channel locks. Again, I've got about 1/8 of an inch on the outside here. I'm not sure that I can get a hold of with these. My wife suggested a pair of vice grips, but I don't know that I have big enough vice grips to get around that. And if I can squeeze this a little bit, I should be able to turn it out of there. Let me see here. Let me get a little lubricating oil. We'll do that right now. A little 3-in-1 might work a little bit in there and maybe get it moving a bit. I don't know whether it's going to help, whether that will even get in there. It is lubricating and penetrating oil, but you know, try anything you can, right? Never thought I'd be doing this, but let's just see if I can get a little grip on that. It actually is compressing a little bit, and look at that. Here we go. Let's see if I can get it going here. It's turning. Because it's a little bit loose. And then we'll see what the damage is, if there's any at all. I did damage the thread slightly. Just a touch. I'll put the next one in. I don't know that it's going to be an issue. Let me just bring the camera around here. And you can see that it did touch. See if I can get a zoom in on this. You can see right in here, I did go through the thread slightly right there. But it's out. And I'm thinking that it shouldn't be a real issue when I put a new one in. But that worked. So I'm pretty pleased with myself. I'm not somebody I would consider who's really good at working with power tools, but that worked. I'm going to have to call my friend Cookie up and tell him, thank you very much. He's the man. So there you go. I managed to get it out. One of the scariest things I've ever done to my bike. Never want to do it again. And it just goes to show torque specifications are good. But in this situation, the actual part, that bottom bracket cartridge, it failed. So I got it out, pretty pleased with myself. I'll put another one in there. When I called my friend Cookie up, he's an old school mechanic. I said, I followed the torque specifications, Cookie. My torque wrench only goes to 29 Newton meters, and it says 35 to 50 for the bottom bracket cartridge. He says, I don't use torque specifications. I do it the old-fashioned way. I just snug it up good, and then that's how I do it. And then you won't have a problem like that. So there you go. Hopefully this was helpful to you. It was helpful that I had a Dremel tool, and it was helpful that I had a good friend who knew how to fix this problem. And if you have a similar problem in the future, I suppose if you've got a little bit of heart, a little bit of intestinal fortitude and a Dremel tool, you can do it too. Thanks for watching Cycling on a Shoestring.